Good afternoon. We will now call the June 29th Oak Park Board of Education meeting to order, and it is 1:01 p.m. Recitation of the district mission and vision. Trustee Smith, if you would please.
Yes, mission. Our inclusive learning community provides the best academic and social experiences by educating the whole child, one child at a time. The vision, cultivating visionary leaders and compassionate citizens to be engaged in the global community.
Thank you.
Do whatever it's going to do.
Sound like I was hearing something.
I thought it was me echoing, and that's somebody
Oh,
else.
is that okay?
It could be that the door is open and we have to keep
it
it
has to
back.
remain open. So, all right. Approval of the agenda and order of business. The agenda was shared with the board prior to today's meeting. Without objection, we'll pass a motion to approve the agenda by unanimous consent. Is there an objection to doing so? Trustee
There
Corley.
is an objection to do
Okay.
so.
You want to add something to the agenda?
Actually, no, not add, but I want to move the approval of the personnel action to action item, please.
That we're not at that time yet.
Okay, I was just trying to be ahead of myself. So go ahead.
So it's on the consent agenda. So what you would do is when we get there, you'll ask for it to come off consent and we can move it.
Yeah, I'm aware of how to do it, but I remember last time it didn't get asked, so I didn't want to make sure I missed it.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Is there an objection to passing the agenda by unanimous consent? Hearing none, the agenda is hereby passed by unanimous consent, and we will then go to public hearing for 2022-2023 budget. Dan Phelps.
Well, we're waiting for the computer
To do its thing.
to do its thing here.
And mine's still doing that.
Can you, is he able to just start
I can talk to this.
speaking? Why don't we do that
I'll
then?
wait for the presentation.
Yeah, just go ahead and start talking to it. If we get it up, then you can go to whatever you need to go to. That's fine.
All right, we're going to start with, all right, each year the district has to present, the CFO has to present the budget book for the 2022-23 school year for the budget. Most of the stuff, the information that's in this presentation you saw at our last board meeting.
Yes.
So I won't go into too much detail. It won't be very long. This, the public hearing is just to make the school district and all their, that the budget is out on the website. It's to be viewed. It's because of the tax implications. The property tax information is out on the website as well. It's all part of the Uniform Budget and Accounting Act. So we're adhering to those rules. And by law, the budget must be approved by June 30th. So that's why this meeting was so important to reschedule from Monday.
Cutting it close.
Yes, very close. So hopefully you'll be acting upon this budget today. Nothing has changed since the June 13th meeting. All the data is the same. Again, it was posted on the website per state directive this past week, a week ago. It's available for public view if they do go under the transparency section of the website. The budget book is something that you have not seen. There's numerous pages. This is the budget book here. This is what I was hoping to present here, which it looks like it's coming out.
Yeah, we're back up. Did you put it on the desktop? Did you copy the file?
It's on the desktop, yeah.
There's two on the
It's
board.
the budget book.
Yep.
Did I hear look over mine?
I got it right here. There we go. Let me go full screen. It's not even showing.
It's just cranky.
Okay. All right. So again, each year the budget book is presented as part of the public hearing. And this kind of just goes into the more of the details from the presentation that went through last week. As you know, that there's going to be, you'll see as you go through the presentation here, you'll see that the first page is the resolution. All right, you'll see that the resolution that these are the resolutions that address the budget. You're going to see two of them, one based on the expenditures, one on the revenue. And later tonight, you'll take action on those pages. Again, a big assumption is the revenue. The enrollment estimate is not changed, as I noted. We're still looking at 3,638 for the student count. Again, that was based on some projections that we received from through the enrollment department, and based on some numbers that we were factoring going forward, some trending. Foundation allowance is at $9,135. That's for a $435 pupil increase from the $8,700 that we currently are at. We're not providing multiple scenarios this year. I know in the past there was like you had your best case, your worst case, and then in between. We're just going to be focusing on this one based on all our conversations over the last few meetings. There's no budget from the state as of yet, so the budget's going to end up changing as it is. You'll find that the MSBO people, Chris Glass from the Kent County ISD was working with the school budget, working and assessing what's gone through with the House, the Senate, and he says basically all signs are pointing to the state budget agreement by Thursday of this week. This is a guesstimate from the MSBO. State Foundation expected to be about $450 per pupil based on his assessment. Now, this again is not in fact, but this is what the latest trending and the latest reporting is. They're looking at a significant increase in special ed and MIPSers, the retirement funds as well. So these are all signs that we just received on Monday. And then there's the Keep Kids Fed Act, which is $3 billion federal dollars to bolster school meal programs. So these are all things that are positives for the school district that are coming back down, that they're hoping would come down on either, hopefully, we'll look at Thursday this week. This is on the page, the next page we're looking at local revenue sources. Again, none of these have really changed. The side-by-side comparison's interesting because it kind of gives you a look at what the 21-22 amendment was versus what the 22-23 original budget is. A lot of it is projected to stay the same for the 22-23 school year. There, in the top portion of the local sources, you'll see there's an increase in property taxes, which kind of allows close to $400,000 increase in that portion. State sources primarily different due to the foundation allowance and student count. So you'll see that those figures are just a bit higher. Those are the key components in that one. And the federal funds fluctuating primarily due to the ESSER funds, if you look at the federal sources. But at the bottom line you'll see is just about $1.5 million decrease from 21-22 to 22-23. We'll go to the millage rates. These again have to be disclosed per the law. We're required to provide the millage rates to the board during this meeting. Again, we'll have a side-by-side comparison. There's not a lot of fluctuation in the millage rates as we look at them. We have a net difference. If you go right to the bottom, there was a net difference of basically just under 1.2% difference, reduction in the property taxes from this year, from last year to this year being proposed. And again, these property taxes were voted upon last board meeting, and that's necessary because of the need for the taxing jurisdictions, being Royal Oak and Southfield, to get their tax papers, and Oak Park as well, to get their tax levies out to their citizens. For a second year in a row, there's been a decrease in the property value, the property taxes. The values of the homes have gone up for 2 years in a row. Enrollment assumptions, we did again, this is a big part of what we do with the budget. There's a breakdown here. I'm not going to go into the details, but this is the breakdown of where the 3,638 students come from. And it's very preliminary. We do have our enrollment people over at Nova working hard every day to try to bring more students into the schools. The next page we're looking at is expenditure assumptions and guidelines. This is basically what's going on with our personnel, which again, per our last discussion, is right around 90% when you factor in the outside contractors. So this is where we're at here. Right now, we're not projecting any step increase except for paraprofessionals at this point. And that's only because the paraprofessionals is built into their contract for 22-23. Currently, we're still in negotiations with the OPEA, with a collective bargaining agreement. We have a wage reopener, so this does not take into account that. That would, if once the numbers are done, once we've actually been approved on the budget, we can negotiate further with the OPEA to determine where we're going to end up. But I just wanted to make it perfectly clear that this is not a final budget, that we are going to be, we have the wage reopener that we still have to assess. Right now, we're currently looking at 5 teacher retirements for this upcoming year, 2 increases in teachers, and the retirement rate is right around 43.5%, with the district paying 28.73% of that. The insurance hard cap, again, is up 1.7%. Last year it was 3.7%, so it's gone down. So that's better for the district, not as good for the employees, because they're eating whatever the difference is. It's going to be going into coming out of their paychecks. Expenditures by function code. This is, again, it goes along with the same line as the revenues. It takes the 21-22 budget amendment 1 and compares it to the 22-23 original budget. These are all the function codes here are 1022 accounting manual guidelines. They give you buckets that you have to put all those expenditures in, and we follow those guidelines. So when you look at 111, those are elementary school, 112 is middle school, and you can see the comparison with all those. These are, again, this is for consistency. They've set it up this way on the 1022 so that all school districts are really reporting in the same fashion. All these, when you get when you do the final budget, you'll see that they're all summarized and they're rolled up into the first 2 digits for the resolution. So you're not going to see these on the resolution. You're not going to see these specific numbers. You're going to see them rolled up by the first 2 digits. ESSER funds are being used for more than salaries in 22-23 instead of facilities. When you look at the bottom, you'll see the facilities. There's nothing really budgeted at the 22-23 level, and that's only because those funds have been moved into the salary piece of the pie. But, however, these ESSER funds are going to be, we're also going to be rolling those into the 23-24 school year as well. So you're going to find that there's about 3.1 million in ESSERs this year, and there's going to be the same amount next year. Most of those are going to be going into salaries. Again, at 24-25, you're going to see the fall off, because there's not going to be those ESSER fund revenues unless the federal government and or state government do something as far as funding the schools a little more effectively. Going in again, support services are higher, primarily with full service of transportation. You'll see it towards the bottom, you'll see the 25.4 million versus 23.057 million for the total support services. Those are primarily with full-service transportation, which wasn't full service this past year, and an increase of security. Overall, the expenses are relatively the same. If you look at the bottom line, they're very similar. The total expenditures between the projected 21-22 final and the 22-23. There's also going to be a food service, food service funds. We're looking at still projecting a solid fund balance at the end of this year, the 22-23 school year for food service, with about $867,000 projected as rolling forward. We're looking to utilize the excess funds for the MDE. That report is going in today. They allowed us to extend that purchasing for another year to where we can purchase all the equipment and everything needed through the food service fund through next June 30th of 2023. That's $1.4 million worth of equipment and such. We're working with Eric Weinkel and architects on these projects, which would include, we're looking at generators for all the buildings, Lessinger kitchen construction, Lessinger cafeteria tables, food delivery truck, and a mobile food truck. Those were all on the list last year. We're carrying them forward to this year. That is it for that piece of it. I'm just going to go to the multiple year budget, which is basically a one page from last year. I'm going to just be focusing on the multiple years just to give the community an idea of where we're looking over the next few years as far as our fund balance. And I'm just going to... So on this slide here, basically we're looking at a 4-year projection. I'm not going through the whole presentation, just this slide, and only because it's all on record and it went too long last time. So we're just going to review the summary of what we are projecting. Looking at the bottom line for resolutions, we're hoping to have approval later tonight. Still projecting a decent fund balance of nearly $12 million, or 20.17% for the 22-23 school year. That drops to $7.7 million. It drops to $7.7 million for 23-24, and then we hit the cliff in 24-25 due to the ESSER funds drying up. So that's what we're looking at on this slide here. Bottom line, it all comes down to the student enrollment. If we can bolster our student enrollment, these numbers could change significantly. But this is right now, this is our best estimate for the 22-23 school year based on everything we know. Again, a budget is not a static thing. It's dynamic. It's always flowing. But this is what we have at this moment in time.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Okay. We'll hit, if there are any questions, we'll hit that when we get to the action item. So I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
We will now go to the consent agenda. Trustee Corcoran, do you want to move personnel items?
Yes.
All right. We'll move that to item 7B. And so, moving that out, we just have the approval of the minutes that are on the consent agenda. Is there, actually I'll do it this way. If there's no issue with that, we'll just approve this by consent. We'll just approve this by unanimous consent, the consent agenda. Is there any issue with that? Okay, hearing none, we'll pass the consent agenda by unanimous consent. We'll go to reports. The first one is for Dr. Jamie Hitchcock.
Good afternoon, Board President and Board Trustees. I'll first begin by just giving an update. We are in the process of our pre-audit work beginning with the accounts payable, payroll, cash receipt testing, along with some other policies and procedures. The auditors are actually here today in our conference room, and they are just doing the beginning phase, and the balance of that work will begin on September 13th. We wanted to provide a construction update. The Lessinger School construction is progressing very well. The floor is being finalized along with tile work in the gym floor, fixtures, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. The meetings with the construction teams this week reflect a promising view of the school being completed on time, barring no unanticipated severe weather or supply chain disruptions. The work on all 3 elementary schools is underway, with the teachers and custodial staff doing a wonderful job prepping for classrooms for the vertical unit ventilators that are going to be installed next month. The delivery of these units have also been delayed because of supply chain issues. We anticipate some other supply chain issues, but we're making provisions to ensure in terms of the rooftop ventilators, that we have a plan in place, a backup plan in place to ensure that we're prepared to begin the school year in September. Mr. Phillips and Mr. Burnett will keep you informed about that information as time progresses. That would only affect the offices, media center, gym, in the gyms at the elementary buildings, if that is something that occurs. Also, Oak Park Schools Operations Manager Steve Burnett has been a very strong and just a tremendous asset to the district. His 46 years in facilities management has helped the district considerably, as he has been instrumental in heightening the quality of our grounds facilities and facilities by working with the DM Burke custodial and maintenance staffs. He has also been a tremendous help in bringing the Lessinger project to where it is now, and is in working with construction and architect teams on the 2021 bond. Last week, Steve announced his retirement, which won't take effect until December of this year. He was kind enough to hold off on his retirement until after the 2022 projects are completed and the 2023 construction documents and bids are completed. This also allows the district time to hire his replacement and to have that person trained prior to Steve leaving. Although he is 6 months away from his retirement, we'd like to congratulate Steve on his upcoming retirement. And then finally, as you already know, this is my final board meeting and week in the Oak Park School District. While I'm excited about this new chapter, there's also a big part of me that's sad to be saying goodbye to so many amazing colleagues and board members. Although we have experienced many challenges over the past 3 years, I have enjoyed our time working together and value the support you've shown me. Best wishes to the students, staff, board, and the Oak Park community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to our second report, item 5B, Cassandra Baptiste, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning.
Good afternoon, all. So my report is on the wonderful work that's taking place in real time with our back-to-school curriculum planning and the targeted supports that are in place to help students, especially with the piloted resources that were just recently approved. Because that was approved, we were able to move forward in staffing for our summer curriculum program, where teachers are doing curriculum work to get started right at the very beginning of the school year with what those targeted supports are going to be. Not only for the piloted resources, but for all 4 major content areas. That work is underway. And it's over a staff of over 20 that are engaging in that work across the district, K-12, special education, ELL, of doing this curriculum work over the summer, so that when we start school in August, we have curriculum set in place, unit plans set in place where teachers are beginning the year with an understanding of what the trajectory is for students from the very beginning of the school year. We're very happy about that. I wanted to report about that. Summer school. So this week was the first week of summer school for all K-12 students, just all throughout. Summer school's up and running, our extended summer school year programming. We were able to hire an additional first grade teacher, and so students who we were originally not able to offer a seat, we're now able to offer a seat. Today was their first day of summer school, so this is a very big accomplishment of making sure to notify the state that we wanted to redirect materials and resources towards salaries, which is what allowed us to hire additional staff. And so today's their very first day, and with that I wanted to thank the summer school directors and also Ms. Couture Brinton for the work that she has done for getting credit recovery up and running, alongside Alnita Trice, who's also overseeing grades 3 through 5, Tiana Peterson, who's overseeing grades 6 through 8, and Mrs. Deanna Denard, who's overseeing grades K2 and our extended summer school year program for special education students. And that is my report for the board.
Thank you. Ms. Baptiste, any questions for Ms. Baptiste?
You said it was short, it was short.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, it should be longer than that, but it was short and sweet.
We're at item 6, public comment. We come to the part of the meeting where the public has an opportunity to address the board if it so desires. Public participation is one-way communication in which members of the public are asked to address the full board with the understanding that board members will not be able to respond. Trustee Smith, could you please provide the public comment guidelines?
Yes. Because the Oak Park Board of Education values public meetings, not just meetings in public, we welcome public comment on school issues. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due process for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by public comments. The public comment portion of the meeting cannot be used to make personal attacks against a school board member or school district employee that disrupts the order of the meeting and is totally unrelated to the manner in which the member or employee performs his or her duties. Speakers should be aware that if statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, such comments may result in legal liability. Most comments can be concisely stated in 3 minutes, and the board respectfully asks that comments remain focused on the topic or issue and not be directed at specific personnel or board members.
Thank you, Trustee Smith. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the board? Going once, going twice, 3 times. Okay, we don't have any of you. Move on to action items. Item 7A, approval of the 2021-22 amended budget. Do we have anyone who can read that action? Trustee Smith.
Yes. Recommend motion is 2021 Budget Amendment 1. Resolved that this resolution shall be the general appropriations of the Oak Park School District for the 2022 fiscal year, 2021-2022 fiscal year. A resolution to make appropriations and to provide for the disposition of all income received by the Oak Park School District. Be it further resolved that the total revenue and unappropriated fund balance be available for appropriations in the general fund of the Oak Park School District for the 2021-2022 fiscal year as presented today on June 29th, 2022.
Thank you. Motion made. Is there a second?
Support.
Second motion made by Smith, supported by Lunkins. Any questions on the motion? Any unreadiness on the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Smith,
Yes.
Cochran,
No.
Trustee Corcoran, you do realize that if you say no, it will not pass.
Oh, no, I didn't even realize.
You're the only, like, it has to pass, all 4 votes have to do it to.
Okay, well then I have a question. In regards to the budget of the amendment for 2021, this question is to Dan. The reason why I voted no is because the question that I continue to ask all year and never get answered. Approving this amendment of this budget is also clarity of the monies that, where they go, how they're being spent, and such things like that. I do know that there were, first I went over the check runs. I go over the check runs consistently. There are a lot of questions that I had asked and I never get the answers. I don't know if it's because I'm asking something that I shouldn't or I just can't find out. I don't know. But anywho, I did, I just have like a question in regards to like how many refrigerators do we have in the school to where that is so many refrigerator repairs at very high amount of like $7,000, $9,000, or $8,000.
Is that on this document,
It's part of the budget, it's money being
the
spent.
amended budget?
Well, not, the amended budget actually contains all the expenditures that have been captured throughout the year. So that would be, as part of the maintenance, is that what you're looking at?
I mean, it's on the check run, I don't know,
Yeah,
it
the
was
check
money
runs
being
are
spent.
all swept into these accounts. So basically, every
They're coded.
account number that hits
Exactly.
those checks is swept into these accounts. So that would probably be your HVAC, so it's not just refrigerators, you're looking at HVAC covers all the air conditioning units, there's,
Well, it doesn't specify, and that was the other thing. It didn't specify. I'm very aware of the numbers, like 261, which is how they're being billed, who they're being billed to, and where the money is coming from, right? So that is why. What I'm gonna do is, I would like to make an appointment with you on Friday, to sit down with you to go over some of these, and I'm ready to vote.
Okay, trustee Corporate, well, you can call her again if you want. So. you
Yeah,
can the roll
call
again.
me again.
Smith,
Yes.
Coburn,
Yes.
Elvin,
Yes.
and Lunkins.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. We're going to item 7B, approval of 2022-23 budget. Trustee Smith, would you please read it?
Yes. 2022-2023 original budget. Resolved that this resolution shall be the general appropriations of the Oak Park School District for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. A resolution to make appropriations and to provide for the disposition of all income received by the Oak Park School District. Be it further resolved that the total revenue and unappropriated fund balance be available for appropriations in the general fund of the Oak Park School District for the 2022-2023 fiscal year as presented today on June 29th, 2022.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Smith, supported by Lunkins. Are there any questions on this motion?
I have a question.
We went through this pretty ad nauseum last meeting, so, and then again earlier, but are there any questions on this motion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go for it.
In this amendment
This is
for next,
not amendment, it's approval.
I mean, for the approval for the amended budget,
No, yeah, it is
It's just
the
a
approval of the
proposed
proposed
the
budget for
proposed
next
budget
year.
for next year. You know what? I'm gonna just take a deep breath. Whew, I just feel intimidated a little bit right now. Give me just 1 second. But go ahead, you're gonna call the vote. I did have a question.
Ask your question.
Okay, hold on, I gotta get back to. Dan, when you were there giving your presentation, it did go fairly quickly. Gosh, what was the question that I had? The question that I wanted to ask you is, in regards to, you said that it wasn't, factual right now, because one, we were waiting for the state, and also we were waiting for the opening, or the enrollment for the children. Do you have a projection as of right now of how many we have enrolled now for next year?
I do have that number, I don't have it right with me right now. It was just over 35, it was almost 3,600 at that time. So I don't have the exact number, because it changes every day, hopefully growing.
Correct.
But as far as the budget itself, the state, as I mentioned before, the state is hoping to finalize their budget as early as this week. Typically, it goes into August, September. So at which time, a lot of schools will do an amendment to their budget at that time, or wait till January, February to do an initial amendment, then do a second one in May or June of that following year. So when I said that, yes, the budget's changed considerably, it's because the state budget is due by September, but our budgets are due June 30th.
Correct.
So there's always that gap there, and there's always uncertainty, especially when student counts are not really done until October. So it's your best guide to where you're gonna be at June 30th, what you're projecting for upcoming year.
Thank you.
So that's
Thank you.
kind of where we're looking.
And Dan, you said they were finalizing their budget, you meant for education.
For education.
Right,
yes,
yeah,
for
right,
education.
thank you, okay, thank you. Anything else?
And that number was 3638, 3,638.
Anything else for members of the board? Hearing none, Ms. Griffin, please call the roll.
Lunkins,
Yes.
Elvin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
and Copeland.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. We will move to item 7C, interim school superintendent. Just note that. All right. The last day for our current superintendent, Dr. Jamie Hitchcock, will be June 30th, 2022. We have a signed agreement with Angel Abdulhad to be our next superintendent effective July 14th, 2022. Michigan state law requires every school district to have a superintendent at all times who holds an administrative certification. With that 14-day lag, we need to appoint someone on the staff to serve as an interim superintendent. Trustee Smith,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we assign,
give me the name and then let me try to
Okay.
wordsmith this
Okay,
motion. But
okay.
go, what's the name?
Cassandra Baptiste.
Okay. So, for your motion, it would be resolved that Cassandra Baptiste serve as interim superintendent from July 1st through July 13th, or until Angel Abdulhad begins work in the Oak Park School District, whichever comes first, and shall receive per day remuneration for this service commensurate with the amount of the incoming superintendent's annual salary.
Yes,
Yes.
Fair enough? You agree with that?
I agree.
Okay, the trustees
I
made
didn't catch that last part you said about salary. No, I didn't hear your.
and shall receive per day remuneration for this service commensurate with the amount of the incoming superintendent's annual salary.
Thank you.
No problem. So trustee Smith makes the motion,
I'll second it.
okay. Trustee Lunkins seconds the motion. Are there any questions on this motion? I'll share, I can give you the language on that too. Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Elvin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lunkins,
Yes.
and Copeland.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. We have an interim superintendent.
She
For
said,
14 days.
Like that fast, you still, you need us to replay it back? Because you look like you still stuck.
I'm fine.
One worry off my plate, so I can probably sleep better tonight than I did last night. We're going to item 7D, approval of personnel actions. And trustee Corcoran, you asked that it be removed from consent agenda. You have questions? What are your
Yes,
questions?
I do. With the change, I had, actually, before I started that, I happened to see that there was a change. It was the person that is for the, I don't know why now nothing wants to move, but it was the person for credit recovery. It said there was a change, but it didn't give the specification of what type of degree that person had, and it had a salary of $65 an hour. But I guess my question is, what was the change? What were they doing prior to, and what are they gonna be doing?
So I can speak to that. So we had postings for the summer school directors. Nobody applied for the credit recovery summer school director. And so what we had was Katora Brinson. She was to receive an additional 30 hours of supplemental work at the posting rate, which was $65 per hour for the director. With
Per day?
no, it's per hour. Their rate is per hour, and each day per hour.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so she is now able to move into the role as at the director rate, but the role has already begun. So the amendment was that she was listed as having supplemental pay. That would pose an issue for payroll, because they would see, oh, she was under supplemental pay, but she's now being extended beyond the 30 hours because it's not supplemental at this point, which is why we wanted to be very transparent in making sure that that was an addendum on the personnel action.
Does that answer your question, trustee Corcoran?
Yes, it
Okay.
does.
You have additional questions?
I do.
Okay.
The other question that I had was, So all the status changes is based on the contracts ending. Is that why the administration is listed, right?
That's correct. So, our
So-
contracts are July 1 to June
Yes, I
30th.
understand the
And
fiscal.
even though we're not done negotiating, we still need to roll their contracts over because most are 1-year contracts.
Right.
So this is rolling them forward,
I
so,
understand.
yeah.
Okay, so the question, so I was looking at a few of the contracts because it was a mini.
Yeah.
And are there going to be, because I didn't see where the raises, are these individuals, administrators, are they going to be receiving any raises coming?
Yeah, we're in a wage reopener with OPEA, which is our largest group. And we will continue having discussions with ASPA. We'll engage in discussions with them, and then we have to discuss the independents. But it's not uncommon when your largest group is negotiating that you kind of hold to see where that goes, because that's your largest expense. So we have been engaged since our meeting in the high school for months with OPA, but we haven't reached an agreement yet. When we make an adjustment to the pay, you'll see this long list again come through, and we'll then be transparent on what the increases were.
Now, the other question I do want to ask is,
Sure.
so the raises that were given, I think it was a year ago?
Yes.
Are those, so the raises that were given last year coming to their new contract, like during the wage reopener, is that based off of like what they had before? Like, is there I don't want to use the word step because it's not a step.
Right.
It's more so like, is there a percentage for the time they're here? Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Trustee Corcoran, that's not germane to the document that we're voting on.
Excuse me, but I have to ask the question because they're contracts that's being rolled over. And the contracts have wages, correct?
They do have
So what
wages
are you
on there,
talking about?
they're there. So
No.
your question is about a wage reopener and all of that, that's not germane to this document.
I didn't ask about a wage reopener. She said the wage reopener. I asked about if the raises are gonna come after or before. So why can't I ask that
Because
question?
that's not germane to what we're voting on in the moment.
Why, of course it is. If they have contracts and then they're coming up, they gotta get paid, right?
If they're coming up, this is what we're voting on right now.
These are
that you see right now are what we're voting on.
What
you're
are we
asking-
seeing? What are we seeing then? What are we seeing? Because maybe I guess I'm not seeing what you're seeing.
Their salaries are remaining the same for right now.
Okay.
So that.
So I can't ask a question
You
of
can,
when the
but
next
that's-
time
but
the
that's
raises
all-
start? I didn't say what the raises were.
But that's on the document.
Oh my God.
The
I'm
response-
asking about questions about the personnel action, Mr. Allen.
Okay, so if you're asking about questions that are
I don't
relative
have
to the
to,
personnel.
I don't have to specifically ask exactly what I'm looking at,
You do,
really.
yes.
Oh,
That is
wow.
correct. That's what.
Okay,
what
so
we're
that
voting-
ends that
it's
conversation.
what
Thank
we're
you for your
voting-
time.
It's what we're voting on. It has to
But-
be relative to what we're voting on.
Okay, all right.
Are there any additional questions relative to the personnel actions report?
Wow.
Okay, hearing none, Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Lunkins,
Yes.
Corcoran,
No.
We won't have any administrators.
Okay. I mean, I'm trying to just get a question asked, and he's saying that I have to stay. That is,
Yeah, but I'm sorry, we shouldn't be hurting the district here because if there's a.
There's not hurting the
pending question.
district.
If we don't vote for this,
how are you
we're gonna
hurting
be
the district
stuck,
when I
and
just
so are our
asked the
staff, so
question?
you're not gonna help them at all.
So not helping them, not
The
finding.
people that you wanna look out for the staff, will not be looked out for, and we'll be in a situation.
Okay, this is not a personal, this is not a
It's-
personal.
Hold it.
No, I just,
What are the ramifications if this doesn't go through today?
Well, our contracts all expire June 30th. So we'll be working without our contracts. There's also new hires in here. It's not just that. So
I see
there's
that.
summer school adjustments, new hires, and we have some adjustments we've made at the leadership level at the buildings. They need to get started. We have a new principal taking over at the high school. Like, that's all
So-
on here, including some deans that have been hired, and people are anxious to get working.
The other thing is that we have a number of highly qualified staff members on that list.
They do.
And if they see the message that they don't have a contract, there's nothing stopping them from going
But-
to
but I
get
have-
positions in a different school district. And that would be a shame
Yeah.
for Oak Park, and definitely not the transition I would think we want for our new superintendent, to have to start filling positions when we already have qualified people in place.
So worst case is people don't start their jobs on July 1. Is that correct? And then they potentially can go elsewhere?
Don't have a contract
Oh,
in place,
yeah.
have a sense of insecurity of not
Right.
having a
Is
contract
it,
in
can
place.
I ask a
It's
question?
definitely a sense of
And then you can
insecurity.
change your vote.
Trustee Lunkins, what is your question?
My question is to Don. Don, wouldn't it be just as simple to,
This the
what,
simple,
can I finish?
oh, I,
Vote yes on this as one part, and the other part of the question that you wanted to get answered is the second part, which would not affect what we need to vote on this right now.
of course, let me defend myself. First of all,
Okay.
I'm not, I have a vote,
True.
and that is my right as a board member, number one. Number two, if I'm voting, I would like to vote on something that I understand. I don't just vote just to vote.
Oh,
So I
understand
had
that.
a few questions in regards to the personnel action report. That is it. So if you all want to go ahead and vote because you're voting, I get it. I get it. I understand that this is a contractual thing. That is what I stated in the beginning. So it's not that I don't understand that. But I had some questions and relevant to the contracts. And that is what is listed, is the contracts of the people that are being rolled over on or before July 1st, so they can keep their jobs.
Well, if
I
you vote
understand
against
that,
it,
so
they're gonna
excuse
lose
me,
it.
excuse me,
She has the
I
floor.
understand.
She has the floor.
I understand. So what I'm saying is that I just simply asked the question, but thank you for answering the question. Now I can go ahead and revote.
Copeland,
Yes.
Lunkins,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
and Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. We will go to information items, 2022-23 board meeting schedule draft. The Oak Park School Board meets formally on the second and fourth Monday of each month at 7 p.m. As such, a draft school board meeting schedule has been developed for the 2022-23 school year. Trustees are asked to review the schedule for approval at the next meeting. And as such, if you haven't seen it, I don't know if there are any changes right now, but are there any suggested changes at this moment? Okay, so please take a look at it, and we can take care of that at the next meeting. We go to board and administration communications. Are there any, item 9, board and administration communications, are there any communications from members of the administration?
No, thank you.
I just have one, and that is to thank my colleague Jamie for all the work she's done for the last 3 years, and the amount of tenacity and energy she's put into improving huge areas in the district, from playgrounds to accountability to a global pandemic. I can go on, and I know she doesn't like this, but I cannot end this meeting without acknowledging her hard work and what she means to all of us as a leader, and we wish her the very best.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
we
you,
do.
thank you, thank you, Dr. H.
So I
Thank you,
second
Steve.
everything that Carol has stated, right? It's a short and sweet meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Right?
Thank you
I
all.
got another
Thank you.
point, which is I also want to thank all of the staff that are working over the course of the summer. It was a very difficult year, and we have a lot of staff members that are giving their all.
Yes,
To our
yes,
students,
yes.
and I want to say thank you to them
Absolutely.
and the families that are patient and working with us.
Awesome, thank you.
You even having Mr. Smith giving his time too, for the eye care.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any communications from members of the board?
Yes.
Trustee Corcoran.
I have just one question. I wasn't asked if I had a question for the superintendent at the time of.
You're right, that's my bad.
It's okay, it's all right. So the question that I had is, there is a couple of consulting companies that I was not able to find, or nor do I know which consulting companies are working with the finance department and helping Dan, if I could, because there's like, of course, no contracts, or if there is a contract, like what is their job duties, or, like, I had no information to, like, who they are, or,
That wasn't in the report. That was in an email that was sent to the board, but I can resend that information and share with you. There are two individuals, Steve Barr, as I've shared with the board previously, and Tom Tebow. The name of his company is like T2 Financial Services. But I'll resend that information to
I
you.
appreciate it.
Anything
Thank you,
else?
that was it.
Okay. Any communication from members of the board? I have one. I want to thank you, Dr. Hitchcock, for your
Thank you.
leadership, your stalwart leadership and service. I don't know how, is it 3 years? 3 years. I've only been here
Feels
for a year
like
and a half, so
20.
for over these 3 years, for shepherding this district in the midst of something none of us could have foreseen at the onset of your employment here. And we wish you, I don't speak for anyone, I wish you the very best in your
Thank you.
retirement. And I hope you enjoy it and travel and do all the stuff you want to do, consult, make some good money on the side, and do all the stuff you want to do, whatever the case may be. I hope you enjoy it.
Well, thank you, thank you.
Anything else from members of the board? Just want to make sure.
No, just stay with the same.
All right, any addenda for members of the administration, any addenda for members of the board? Oh, one other thing too. We had a young man here, Glennie, remember his last name? Cross. Just received a scholarship from the Gamma Lambda Education Foundation.
Omega Psi Phi?
That would be the members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I was delighted to see his face there at that event on Saturday receiving a scholarship.
Congratulations.
Okay, you know that's what the
I thought that was-
Alphas do.
I thought that was Kappa Alpha Psi.
Oh, no, that would not be. No. Trustee Smith, next meeting date?
The next meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Monday, July 11th, 2022 at 7 o'clock p.m. in the boardroom in the administration building.
Thank you. And without objection, we will adjourn via unanimous consent. Don't see any objection. Time is 1:53. You're hereby adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.